Hey, welcome back to Goals and Greatness Podcast, your weekly dose of business banter, big ideas, epic fails, and the systems that make the dream work. With your favorite duo, Cat and Lou.
Double the expertise, double the fun. I'm Lou, your navigator on this wild ride of risk-taking and rule-breaking.
And I'm Cat, your go-to guru for all things startup. Together, we're unzipping the secrets of success and taking you behind the scenes of our crazy world.
Whether you're a CEO in the making or you've just scribbled your first business plan on a napkin, we're here to fuel that fire and help you unleash your greatness to achieve those big, bold goals.
So entrepreneurs, visionaries, and everyone in between, get ready to join the ride with Cat and Lou. Let's turn up the volume and unleash your greatness. Happy Wednesday.
We're back.
Are you going to rap?
No, just doing my midweek dance party.
I feel like I've had a cough since like January started. I'm like still trying to get over. And someone said it's like a 90-day cough. I'm like, all right, well, hopefully we're getting close to the end here because this has been crazy.
You got sick in Spain, right?
I did get sick in Spain. So I just keep getting hit, man. My immune system with this baby has been down. But yeah, we were so lucky at the end of our trip to come home with flu B.
Wonderful. I've had probably flu B. Not sure. Yeah, so anyway, this week, as a follow-up to last week, which was great, by the way, great stuff on career advancement. I think that's going to be really valuable for people. So, something that we've had, like, I feel like we've always kind of worked from home. Like we could have if we wanted to for some things, or hybrid. We've been hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid. Since COVID, we did a lot of work from home, which was
like now, I mean, I've been now at home exclusively since 2017. But before that, I would say when I was working with you, it was definitely more hybrid, like just go to the office for specific events and then everything else we were doing from home. And I know it's like such a blessing to be able to work from home. Like, I don't know, pros and cons. I really can't think of many cons, but what for you are some pros and cons of being able to work from home?
Well, I mean, the pros, I think many of us know, right? The flexibility, managing your own schedule, those who are moms or dads, being able to be more present. Like my husband loved when we were forced to be home, for COVID, because we'd actually just had our first child and he got to be there for all the firsts. He got to see him crawl, I got to see him walk. And had he been working at the office, he would have missed those things, so
right.
He just loved. So I think whether you're male or female, like being able to be more present with your family or like people that are important to you, like having those extra hours in the day, right? Because when he goes to work, like he's been back working, so he drives an hour and a half one way, or even if you're going 30, 45 minutes, like the fact is, there's been a lot of shifts in our world, right? Like things cost more money. If you're living in the city, the cost is way higher. If you're in suburbia, you can save some money and have more like land or more space. And so we've chosen that route. We've chosen to move outside of the city and be in more of the suburbs. But that also comes with a larger commute, right? To get to work if you have to get into the office. And so that's, 2 additional hours a day that you could have to like, whether it's go to the gym or go play with the kids or go do something and still get your work done, right? So, and the pros are amazing, but the cons, I think a lot of it has to do with the advancement opportunities, honestly, because there's this like kind of out of sight, out of mind, or, I've heard and I've seen different companies. I've been interviewed a couple different times, but they've talked about, just there's so many back to work mandates and companies, there's 2 companies. There are companies that get it, I think, and understand like the power of having, being able to offer the virtual work and the caliber of people that they're able to gain. And then there's people who are just like, no, everyone has to come back in and out. Why? So curious, like, what do you think are some of the thoughts as to why people would want people back into the office?
Well, there's still that whole mindset of like, if I don't see them, I don't know that they're completing what they need to do. So I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I can see how that affects people's ability to move up or like be seen or noticed by, their higher ups. I know people are also moving toward like a hybrid for that reason now. They're like, well, let me start, but they're doing it as like a segue. They're like, well, let me start bringing people back in for like 2 days a week, and then I'll put them back in for the full 5. but I know we're going to talk about this in a minute. I think a lot of people have also seen that it can actually lower production, like from the
Mhm.
people if they're going from working from home already back into the office, because like I said, there aren't many cons lifestyle wise
Mhm.
working from home. So it's kind of like a hit to the ego, or like a sadness. It's, that you feel because you're like, shit, I'm losing time.
Yeah, I think that, well, one of the cons with lifestyle is the ability to advance quicker, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they're not, and it's wild because I see both sides, right? Because I'm like, I want my people to come to the office. I want to see them in person. I also have loved the flexibility of being able to be, more present with my kids, to be around more, to take a lunch break and play with my baby for an hour and then go back, to work and do things. And I love that. And whether it's play with your baby, play with your dog, go for a walk, go do something that really fuels you, right? Energetically, like being able to
Hmm.
have that pause in the middle of the day for that emotional, energy high, or a physical energy high, because you go for a 20-30 minute run, grab some food and get back to work. Those are incredible things, and I love it. But it also, like you said before, it's like, how do I know they're getting their stuff done? Like there's certain people that I trust wholeheartedly, and there's others that I'm like, what the F are they doing? Or like, what am I paying for? Like, what's happening, right? And so this is really important, as an employee to know that, because, I have both sides of it as a business owner. And like in one of my companies, I do have someone that, I report to ish and let them know things that are happening. And I think that there's certain factors that can make it better for you. But I think that one of the big things that I've seen and I've been asked a lot about is culture, right? And like teamwork, people feeling like they're part of a team versus just by themselves. Where, some people really, most people, most humans are really designed for community, right? And so most humans thrive when they're working in team, in partnership, I feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. Like we know that that's
Yeah.
part of human design. So yes, so I get like, I want my people working together. I want that happening, but like there are things that we can do to still create that, right? Without having to require everyone to show up 9 to 5 or whatever hours every single day. There are other things that can be happening to get that done.
Yeah, and actually one thing that we did in one of my companies is we had basically like a virtual office, and you could think of setting it up the same way as you do a physical office, where we have a main Zoom, and then everybody every day had a breakout room, and not everybody was in the main Zoom together, it would just be like me and the sales manager, and then
Mhm.
everybody else would be in their breakout room. So it was like their office.
Mhm.
And we wouldn't like just go into somebody's breakout room, but it allowed us to know that they were online. And if we had a question or whatever, we could send them a message on chat and then join them or
Mhm.
whatever. And they could still have the flexibility and the freedom to go do any breaks or have lunch, like you said. And we weren't like micromanaging them, but it was just number one, force accountability. But number two, like being able to come into a space every morning, like the water cooler chat, right? Like people talk about that all the time. Oh, we're losing water cooler chat. Like we're not, you know, building those relationships anymore, but having this thing that you do every day helps you build that. But anyway, I'm curious because like you said, you've been asked a lot of questions on this, and I know that you've recently been featured on different things more specific to younger people and women in relation to career advancement, working from home. Like you said, you are losing that a little bit. So what are the things that you've spoken about that people can do to help them stand out?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So we'll talk stand out, and then I'd love to talk about or maybe we can keep going off your water cooler thing, because I really wanted to speak on that. Uh,
Okay.
the water cooler chat and like that community building stuff, right? Like
Mhm.
that's huge. As we just talked about, like we are, there's just something about being connected to others. We know that in business, and we've both built businesses, and people will quit a job before they quit people, right? And we know that. So how do we create that if people are home by themselves, right? Like how do we do
Mhm.
that? And so I think that having team building events, that maybe people are all working from home, but once a month the team gets together at this restaurant or this bar, for happy hour, and we just get to hang out and build relationship. Or there's like a family picnic day. like every quarter, and people come to this park and you get a bunch of barbecue and have people together and they're able to share time, meet each other's families, do stuff, right? Like we've talked about culture building in the past, but I think that when people are, you don't have to have them like coming to work in the office 9 to 5 in order for them to build relationships. Honestly, when we're working, I hate when people are just hanging out. You know that. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, it's work time, you know? Like if you're on your lunch break, great. So I actually prefer like the after hours type stuff and saying like, hey, or closing the office for a day and saying, hey, we're doing like almost like a field trip, you know, but it's like we're all going here and like we're just going to hang out together. And that's not something that's happening weekly, you know, but it's like once a quarter or once a month, like having something. So whether it's a bowling night or a team activity or something where you get people together outside of the work environment, I think is even more powerful for that community relationship building, you know, and doing that. And so I think that if business owners are afraid, and we'll talk about from the business owner side and from, you know, the employee side, but if you're afraid about the culture and if you don't have people working together, you don't have that teamwork and collaboration, I don't think that that's true. So there's the activities, but then there's also like you talked about utilizing Zoom properly, right? Like you can have a meeting every week together, your staff meeting on Zoom, and you can put people into breakout rooms and create, hey, we want to figure out solutions for this. We're going to put you guys into groups of 3 to 5, and I want you guys to come up with as many ideas as you can towards how do we fix this, or how do we improve this, or how do we move this needle forward. And so now they're in a group of 4 or 5 people talking with each other. And so you're still getting that like teamwork, right? And they didn't have to necessarily come into the office. Now, by the way, you could do that in the office once a week. You could say, hey, everybody comes once a week for our staff meeting in person and we do this. Awesome. Like, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that, you know, but more and more we're seeing the trends where people have been moving all over the world. You know, like one of the people that helps us with a lot of digital things for GoBundance, they're in Costa Rica. You know, him and his partner, they live in Costa Rica. They chose to go down there, right? There's people that are living in Puerto Rico because of the tax benefits, or, you know, half the year, or just all over the world. I mean, we just see more and more of that happening since COVID. And people are loving that. They're loving that they can show up to work and then they can be where they want to be, and they can, you know, just have like more freedom. And so I think that having tactical things like that have to be turned in or supported or whatever, like as a business owner, if you really want to control that, there's stuff you can do to know what your people are doing. End of day reports, right? Highs, lows, whatever, what they got done for the day. Like you can do all these things so that you're in the know. Because I think about, even if people are at the office, like, do you really know what they're doing? They could be sitting at their desk like, oh, they're working. They could be freaking playing solitaire. Like, do you really know what they're doing? Like, are you over their shoulder to see what they're watching on their computer all day? No. So then why are we being so crazy about like they have to be here? And again, I'm devil's advocate. Oh, because I feel like I can control it more, you know, because I feel like I could be like, hey, what you doing? Or, you know, and I could interrupt more or something. But I don't know that that's how you're going to develop like a very strong company, you know, like you want people who are more driven, you know, and that goes back to the hiring and personality tests. And like, do you have people that are self-motivated, that like to be achievers, that like to be good at what they do, you know, that are not just like doing the bare minimum or like whatever I can do to slide by, right? But I think about on an employee standpoint, you know, there's, you know, can you be the one that's helping with those initiatives? Can you be creating those solutions and say, hey, I was thinking this would be really great for community building. So think about what are things that could help build community and teamwork amongst your team, even if you have people virtually, giving ideas sometimes to the owners or business owner where they might be stuck in the past. And that's very real, you know, like you've been doing it the same way for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? No, I'm used to having my people here. I'm used to having my space. And so we've really shifted. I mean, we've shifted our office. If you come to my office now for Houston, for our Cutco office, we have a shared workspace type place. We have a small, like 800 square foot, I think it's like 600 square feet office, very small. And then there's conference rooms and there's like really funky, fun work areas. That's very different than what we've ever had, but it's also evolving with the times. You know, I'm like, I know that the other office is kind of like a little bit old school and like it's cool, but like as kids are moving up, like this feels more like today, you know? And And so just being open to that, but can you be that employee or that contributor that is helping think about like, how do we build the team stronger? What do we do for community building? What do we do to solve problems, right? And being vocal about it is really important. So I'll come up for air. I don't know if you want to say anything. I have a lot more I can keep going.
No, I totally agree with that. There's so much room for innovation. There's so many industries where people have been doing the same thing the same way for a long time. And so being vocal about any changes that you want to see, I think is really important. And I think that's actually one of the things that helps you stand out, is coming to the boss with ideas. And what would you say to somebody before we dive into some other more specific points I'm sure you have? How would you advise somebody to approach their boss and give them ideas?
Great. I think first, like you need to be a self advocate, especially, and for it is what it is. Like there are more females, like what we're seeing in terms of trends is there are more females that want to stay work from home and a lot more of the younger generations, right, that are enjoying the travel and the flexibility of that. And so if you want to be top of mind, it's like, okay, why are the people, this is a fact, is that people that are in office are getting more promotions than people working from home, right? Like just in general. How do we change that? How do we put ourselves in position and in a running for that promotion versus that guy who's showing up every day, but I'm a mom at home with 3 kids, and what's happening there? I mean, there was a lady that we knew that was a top lawyer and she was working from home and stuff during COVID and they had back home mandates. She quit the law firm and started doing something else because she wanted to keep that flexibility. And the law firm lost an incredible player. I mean, she was like top notch, like had helped triple this, that, whatever. And like the people were too stuck in the past. And, they had the other partner that was there every day and like, well, he's here, and it's like, but I'm doing more and creating more. Right. So I think that you need to be a self advocate, like for what you're doing, what you're creating. Hey, here's ideas or solutions, things that I'm finding. And I don't know that there's when you asked Marielou, like, oh, how do you approach? I think that one, you need to be self-confident to say, hey, I've got this, something I want to share. So whether you send it in an email or if we're in a staff meeting, and we're sharing ideas on stuff, like the best owners are going to be reviewing like what went well, what can go better, what are areas of growth. If they're not, it might not be a place where you're going to grow much because they're not growing, right? Like, so that's something I always look at every week, every month, every quarter. Those are things that we want to see. What do we need to keep repeating that's working? What do we need to fix so that we can elevate, right? And so I think that every week, every day, like whether you're asked to or not, if you're working from home, can you send a report at the end of the day? Here's what got done today. Here's what I'm working on. Here's some ideas I have. Like just take initiative to do that. You weren't asked to do it, but every day you're letting your boss know and they're like, oh, wow. Okay. Wow. And they're seeing all the things they're doing. So it's an initiative you're taking without being asked to just give a report each day on what's going on. And at the end of the week being like, here's, like just an analysis for the week on you. You're like self-promoting, but like just you're keeping them in the know, right? Because again, like if they don't know what you're doing. And I realized that even with partners of mine in another business, it's like, I need to update them more on like what's happening because they're like, for all they know, nothing's happening. Right. And so what are you doing to be vocal about where you're at, what's happening and any ideas? And then don't be afraid, to ask for a one-on-one with the boss if you have something that you think could really help and say, hey, I would love to see if we could grab coffee or lunch, online or in person. I've got some ideas that I think could really help the organization. And if it's the right company, they're going to be open to that. And if not, it might be time for you to go somewhere else, because that means that they're stagnant and they're not open to growth.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at, is that you also need to be open to moving companies, if that's like, if it's not working out there in that way, right? So being in a place where you can share ideas and somebody's listening is definitely an important factor in whether or not you're going to be able to advance or not, because you could be doing all the things, but if the person on the receiving end is not open to hearing all of that or receiving all of that, then all your work is for nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like that I know you're not on the TikTok, but there's like there's like those sounds that people they call it duet, like when you use a sound in another video. And there's like one right now that it's like, all that work and what did it get me? So that's how I feel about it, is like if things just fall on deaf ears, then maybe the next move is to find something else. And maybe that's how you find the advancement working from home. It may not be within your company, but
Mhm.
what are some other things that you and your partners have been talking about with this trend?
Well, right when you were saying, like, I think that again, there's two companies right now. Like, there's companies that are stuck in the old school and trying to get it back there, and there's people that are innovating and moving forward. And so, I think that the biggest things, what I've seen more is more me preaching to business owners, like, be open to this, be flexible to this, like, figure out, like, what do you actually need people in the office for? And if it's a requirement, I don't think that most people need to be in more than 2 days a week. I just don't. Maybe your business it does. And so, I talk to me, sell me on it. But in most cases, I feel that if you have people in 2 days a week, you can knock out most of the stuff that you wanted to do in person and the rest of the stuff they can do from home.
Mhm.
So have some kind of a check-in and have something to look at metrics, have those things in place. Or if you're in the employee and they're not asking for it, give it. Like, just give those things. Like, those are the biggest things. It's like, if you want to, and if you want to keep advancing, we talked about this before, a big thing we talk about all the time is just, what are they doing to develop their skills? What does emotional intelligence look like? How are they showing up? How are they communicating? Are they finding solutions? Like, it's a lot of the same stuff we talked about last episode that we're seeing, but here it's like, you have to be more vocal and you have to be advocate for yourself and you have to keep people in the know on what's happening. And, the more you can help solve problems for the company, the more valuable you are, whether you're there or not. And again, if they're not valuing what you're bringing in, because they just want you in the office, like, they're just like stuck on that, versus like the work that you're actually doing that's moving the company forward, it's just not the best company. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I don't have a ton more there with that, except that, create things for your, like, really get a gauge. I think that if your boss is open to getting time with you and listening, like, that's a really positive thing. And if you're home, you want to be more proactive to try to schedule some of those meetings, because you're not having those, whatever you call them, I don't know, water.
Water cooler chat.
Yeah. You're not passing by your office, or grabbing coffee and saying hey to the boss and having a go, how was your weekend or whatever. You're not getting that. So what are you doing to get that? Like, how are you taking initiative to still be able to have those connections with your superior, personally and professionally? So create ideas, get innovative, because you can bring a lot to the business. It's going to help, and it's going to serve you and your personal life, and your ability to be able to stay home, because you bring so much value. They don't care where the hell you are. They're like, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, you're helping our company so much.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and this is my last thing, and then I don't know if you have anything else, but I just go back to, at the one of my companies, we created such a great culture that it felt like an in-office culture. And I think one thing that I got better at, and me, I'm a quality time person. I love spending time with people. But once I got to the level that I was at, I had to kind of have a talk with myself and realize, hey, like, you can't be building relationships, spending time with people anymore, which was kind of like my default, was like, I could be this, I could be that, but I spend a lot of time with them. So they're going to love me, I'm going to love them, and we're going to have a great relationship. But first of all, kids. Second of all, business, like what I need to attend to, what I need to attend to is like way different than before, and I need more time. So what I traded was, instead of spending more time with people, I just had more genuine interest in people. And I think that a lot of people lose that, especially business owners, because you have so much going on. But just taking a moment to be present and listening to what your people are telling you, and then because you're like present, listening, and genuine, you're naturally going to remember that, and asking questions later on about that. So like somebody telling me, instead, like when you're going to sign off with somebody and they're telling you what they're going to do for the weekend, listen to it, follow up with them the next week on it, and they're like, oh wow, she was listening to me. She's asking me about what I did over the weekend, and taking an interest in what I get an interest in, right? So if somebody has a specific hobby, asking them things about that. The kind of corporate gifts that you give, making them more specific, I think helps you build
Yeah.
relationships. So instead of being like, where's your in an office, you're like, oh, today's a coffee day for everybody. It maybe somebody is really into like even when I had my virtual office at Cutco, one of our girls, we knew that she loved to like draw. So we got her like custom pencils and a custom like pouch with her name on it. And it was a better $25 spent than like 5 separate coffee days because it was more personalized. So I think if you want to build those same relationships that happen just naturally in an office, I think it's actually more beautiful in virtual spaces because you
You
have
have
to
to be
be
more
more
intentional.
genuine. Yeah.
Mhm.
And be more present and be more intentional and build better,
And be more aware, right?
more
Like know
real,
your
more
people,
aware.
right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I was talking to someone about that last week, and like it's so crazy. We were talking about, hiring, retaining, having great teams, like in one of my business coaching calls. And they're like, it's so simple, but it's just something that I just never thought about for my business. And like really knowing who my people are, where they want to go, what are their like goals for their life, and how can my business be a vehicle for them, right? And I think that when you stop focusing on just you and like our business needs this, our business needs that, yes. And when you focus on if I serve my people, if I grow my people, no matter whether they're home or in office, and I'm conscious of who they are, where they want to go, what they want to do, and I'm helping serve that, and I'm helping them utilize my company as a vehicle, you have more loyal workers, you have people that you retain longer, you have better performance. They're not just trying to do the bare minimum, cut in, cut out, but they're excited to do more. They're excited to bring more value. They're excited to help the growth of the company because of how much you care about them and how much you're helping them grow, in their life. And so that's, another thing we can dive back into later because I think there's different layers of that. But it's just, it does make a big difference. So I'm glad you mentioned that in terms of like, just, getting for the business owners, with people out there working virtually, like get to like, do you know like why they're working? Do you know
Mhm.
like, is there a trip that they're like wanting to take their family on? Are they trying to pay off some things? Like these are all things that can help you with that, like relationship building and team and community. And your objective of like, I want people to stick around. I want them to want to work here. There's again, other ways to do that versus demanding they come into the office. So hopefully this was helpful, to those listening, whether you're an employee that's working from home and really wanting to keep that, but not just keeping the work from home, but wanting to like maximize your opportunity within a company and being able to advance as much as you can and being competitive with those that are showing up every day, because there are people that don't want to be at home. They want to go to, they want to get the hell away from home, and so how are you putting yourself in a place where you can be competitive with those who are showing up every day and working right hand with the boss, and you're home, out of sight, out of mind? What are things you can be doing? And so hopefully you grabbed a couple things here that can help you with that and really help you guys achieve those next goals you have for yourself personally and professionally. So
Okay, I have a quirky question for you though,
okay.
before we sign off. Okay, in another life, if you believe in another life or not, whatever, in another life, based on this life, what profession do you think you were in?
Oh, I was definitely some like, I always say this is going to sound so wrong, but like an old white man CEO. I'm like, all growing up, there's so many things that like people are like, oh, did you get that from this book? Did you get that? I'm like, I've never read a business book in my life, like until like my mid 30s. And I was like, I don't know how I know this, I'm like, I think I was like an old white man, very successful CEO in my past life. I have no idea.
You're an old Jew. That's
Oh,
awesome. I think I was for sure some kind of a detective or something like that because
yeah.
I'm very good at solving mysteries and just researching things on people. I mean, I know a lot of women have that skill, like I'm gonna find the bastard, but I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, yeah, that's something. Didn't you guys have like a thing in high school? Like,
Oh God, we don't need to get into that.
like Gossip Girl style. That was great. Anyway,
Yeah,
awesome. Well, we wish you guys an
not my
incredible
finest moments.
wish you guys an incredible week. Like, share, comment below. We'd love to hear your past jobs. We always say these questions to each other, but love to hear feedback from y'all. So share, like, subscribe, all the things, like we're here to serve. So anyone you guys know that you feel can benefit, make sure you guys share this with them. And we can't wait to see you guys next week.
See ya.